Grab your coffee, Little Rock. Get jacked up. It's time for another episode of the Block Talk podcast, social distancing style. I am Jamie Taylor, your host, welcoming my new friend, Rob, who owns the library next door, right?
I do. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show. So tell everybody exactly who you are, because I know you as Rob from the library.
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit about how you got next door.
Yeah, so I'm Rob. I'm from West Memphis, went to high school in Marion. Lived in Northwest Arkansas for a while. I've been in the restaurant business for almost 20 years. Came to Little Rock with another restaurant venture, and I had gotten out of that and was going to take a break for a little while. And this was a real estate play for us to create an experience and a venue in a newly developed entertainment district that we're trying to start something really cool here.
Yeah.
And if you've traveled to any of your major cities with, Bill Street wouldn't be that if it was just Sticky or just Silkies, and Broadway wouldn't be Broadway if it was just Tootsies. And the story goes on and on
Yeah.
and on. So I think the idea was to put a venue here in the River Market that is designed for the River Market.
Right. Well, first of all, you said a lot of things I really love because, first of all, Northwest Arkansas, people talk about that as such a regional area. You don't hear them talk about Fayetteville and Bentonville. You hear Northwest Arkansas.
Sure.
And you don't really hear the same with Central Arkansas. You hear like Little Rock, North Little Rock, Benton Bryant. And that's been something that me and my listeners have kind of followed and wanted to watch and see more of a Central Arkansas feel, more of a destination style. When you come here, you want to see everything that surrounds it. But the epicenter is here downtown. People come here and they want to have fun, be in the entertainment district. But the library is a different kind of venue, and what I love about it is the name. And I'm just like, I'm going to go to the library.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I'll tell you.
How was that developed?
I can't take the credit. I will take the credit for the name of the library here in Little Rock. However, there's library bars in college towns all over America. I had a couple of years in North Mississippi at Ole Miss. We had a bar music venue there called the Library, which is still thriving to this day. However, while that may have had a little part in it, the rest of it was the fact that it's just cliche. There's the CALS, Central Arkansas Library System, which has been a great partner of ours. Their headquarters is directly behind us. The Bobby Roberts Library is next door. The Clinton Library is at the end of the street. And so being that we are a lighthearted restaurant music venue where y'all is okay, we just thought, what the hell, we'll do it. And true story, our first food order was delivered to the Clinton Library.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, truck driver didn't quite read the address.
That is so funny. I think it's great because what you also said was it was a real estate play, and you just mentioned being downtown, being where all the library systems are. And it's interesting to me when you said real estate play, I wonder if you refer to just being in an entertainment district or with respect to Little Rock itself, because to move a restaurant down here, especially at a time when so many people are moving into the region that you came from, what attracted you to this area and why did you make that play?
Yeah, I get that asked regularly, and right now it's hard to defend it during the global health pandemic. But
right.
But the truth of the matter is that Little Rock is the capital of Arkansas. This is the most diverse demographic area we'll have in the state. These hotels and tall buildings around us, the convention center across the street, they're not going to be empty forever. Arkansas has nothing like Simmons Bank Arena. I think that there's a lot of room and additional real estate within the riverfront that we could do some things and utilize our water that we really haven't done from an ecotourism standpoint yet. We have on the bike trail perspective,
right.
But I think that there's it's just a good time to be downtown, and a large part of my business plan is based on the hotel revenue, and there's a lot of traffic in Little Rock from the airport. That all stay here. We have corporate agreements with their pilots and their stewardess, and so there's just a lot of which tourism is the second largest,
income producer in Arkansas.
Yeah, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about wherever it is you're living in this world, is tourism cool there? Do people want to come there?
But what's crazy about that is you don't really always know that living here, and
No.
I only know that because I grew up on the West Coast. So when I
Right.
came to Arkansas, I was like, people come here to see it. Well, then I got here and I was like, no wonder. It's beautiful. And there's something for everybody. There's
as a whole, I think that something about just being the natural state isn't super sexy. as much as it is.
I think it should be like,
Yeah, I know.
it's like
I
in
know,
the
right?
buff,
But-
like
but-
the natural
but
state.
on a 50 states, Arkansas gets a bad rap for whatever the case may be. But the state itself is gorgeous. And
Right.
I'm born in the flatlands in the Delta. And at times when the cotton fields are full and there's corn everywhere, it's as beautiful as being in the Rocky Mountains to me.
Right.
And the same thing with Northwest Arkansas.
Well, and California is known for beaches and
Sure.
that kind of thing, and that's where I grew up. And then a little bit in Arizona with the deserts. The country, our country, has just some of the most diverse landscape, and it's all beautiful. But Arkansas is something special, and I really think too. I mean, if you can get over the humidity,
Yeah.
our
Oh.
summers are like nothing else. I mean, I've just floating down the Buffalo River on a kayak with your friends. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just so much fun to live here. So bringing us to the river and kayaking, and there's the River Outfitters in my eye line here. Downtown has changed quite a bit since the health pandemic, and I know just from I'm a small business owner. I have a local project here. I really have had to pivot in some creative ways, and I've experienced some down and some up, and just a lot of mixed feelings with this whole thing. And I kind of want to talk to you about your experience with it. You said you've been in the restaurant business 20 years. I guarantee you haven't had a health pandemic like this one
No.
in that 20 years. So tell me, from your perspective, what has this been like, especially opening less than a year ago next door?
It's been brutal. There's no way to sugarcoat it. We opened on January the 8th and closed for the first time on March the 16th, 17th. We've since opened and closed 2 more times. And in a 6-month plan, there's no way to open and close the same restaurant over and over. And it's been a moving target. It's been an absolute moving target. We had well over 50 employees when we opened and got up and running, and I had probably 15-20% of them come back. They were getting paid a couple $100 more to stay home than to come into work from the unemployment. Which, if you think about Arkansas being a great place to live, it's affordable to live here too. Mm-hmm. And with the set coast to coast where you're from, let's say in California, that $600 isn't going to go near as far. And it may be relative there, and it very well may be relative on the East Coast. But here in Arkansas, it was just a lot of money, and it was more money than where the lowered wage would be right now. I mean, my staff members start off at $14 an hour, which is as much as I can possibly afford to pay them.
Right.
So it was a very difficult climate to staff, and then not having a full understanding, not that we do today, but we certainly have a more understanding of what COVID is than we did in February and March.
Well, but you said 6-month plan, and just like real quick, I guess my immediate thought was, what are you going to do when you have a 6-month plan, you projected business, and you have no idea what your projected business is when you're forced to shut down and then try to pivot? And so, I mean, I guess the future is kind of totally unclear because you
absolutely.
don't, right.
Yeah, I'll just wake up every day and convince myself it's got to be. It's
We're
gonna
on a
get
roller
better.
coaster, Rob.
I mean, my bank account looks like a heart monitor. I mean, it's just.
I'm sorry, that's not
nonstop.
funny, but it was
But
a great,
it's not. But it almost
great
is.
analogy.
And there is, I guess, a very slight amount of solace to know that I'm not the only one the bank's having conversations with, and there's going to have to be some additional federal funding, especially as it pertains to the hospitality, restaurant, tourism, hotel industry. And I feel rather confident that there will be some additional funds. I had a great Zoom call yesterday morning with Congressman Hill and some other local restaurant owners, and I know that there is certainly some discussion. However, it's tied up in an election and politics right now, so
what isn't?
who knows when there's going to have to do something. I don't think that even at the state level they're going to allow restaurants. I mean, if you look up and down the street, 70% of us are restaurants and bars. Mm-hmm. So what does it do to the river market if we're all gone? So there's going to have to be some help some way. And then you think about what the AEDC did here in Arkansas with the PPE. A flat $1,000 per full-time employee to buy gloves and face masks. Well, that doesn't necessarily cross over all other industries. Like we talked earlier, I have another job in another field,
right.
And it doesn't require me to wear 1,500 pairs of gloves a day. It
right.
doesn't require me to buy 100 face masks. It doesn't, so there's just a lot of additional expenses that have been incurred on the hospitality industry from this.
Right. And I know that that has got to be, I mean, well, I say I know, I don't know how daunting that is to wake up to every day. And I feel for you because my view of it is totally different. Everyone has a different perspective on how it's affected them. There's different protocols here, different protocols with every kind of business. But one of the questions I have about that whole situation is how did you pivot anyways? I mean, when you got the opportunity to try to reopen, when, how do you reopen? You can't really throw a grand reopening and you can't really open all the way. And there's all this new exploratory PPE and, like you mentioned, all the different processes. How did you pivot through that? How did you lead your team without kind of losing your grip? And just from an entrepreneurial standpoint, it has to have been the toughest, which I'd like to talk about what even got you into the restaurant business. But before we get there, this has got to have been the most pivotal moment in your ownership career. And so how did you handle that, and how have you been kind of trudging through?
Yeah, it's I've often been referred to by a lot of friends and colleagues as being very resilient. And I said the only reason I'm resilient is because I've been given so many opportunities to bounce back. And it's like it's in no situation I ever thought I would find myself in.
No control.
None, zero. And so for me and how I try to live my life as a business owner and a manager of people is to, at the end of the day, what are we doing here at the library? And it's to create spaces and places for people to come together. And you can come together and have a meal, or you can listen to music, or you can watch the game on TV, or whatever may be going on there. The whole front of the building is open air, and we are a big entertainment, soul food hangout. Mm-hmm. And so for me, if I'm going to stay true to my brand, I quickly realized, one, I was going absolutely bonkers at home, losing money and coming up to work every day and staring at my empty restaurant and figuring out a way to feed people. And my church helped put together a group where we fed about 3,000 meals to different nurses and first frontline healthcare workers, which was enough to get me out of the house. I think it cost me a couple of grand, but it was worth it. And I quickly got my core staff members who never went without a paycheck back and going and working, just the three of us. And then we quickly just kind of kept going and showing up every day and just hoping that we could create something out of nothing. And one of the first things we did is we did a free barbecue sandwiches for all of our police officers down here. And EMTs, where we gave away free barbecue sandwiches, and we opened up the front of the building. No one could go inside, but we had a couple acoustic acts on the inside playing to the street.
Somebody got on Facebook when that was going on and went live, and I was scrolling through my feed, mm-hmm. and I saw it, and it was like all these people were like smiling and so excited, but they were everyone was really far apart, and this was at the very beginning still, but they said, I just walked by and heard the music and I smelled the food, and it just made me feel like just a little bit of normalcy, and it just kind of lifted my spirits. And anyways, I read that and I saw the video and I thought, that was really cool of them to do, because it's just got to get creative.
Again, that's we're in the entertainment district, and if I'm going to be true to myself and my brand, it is to create spaces and places for people to come together. And I think we need to come together as much as any right now, from every walk of life. I mean, we really need places to come together and talk and grow and become better people, better citizens, better parents. Mm-hmm. So I made a commitment early on to myself and my staff that we're going to get up and we're going to go to work, and if you want a job, I got one for you, and I'll figure out a way to make it go. I've often said I can ride out my 800 credit score for at least another year or two. That's why you need good credit, because you never know when you're going to need it.
This is called my lifeline,
That's
my
right.
rescue. Phone a friend.
It's not for everybody.
No.
I mean, it's not. I have a lot of sleepless nights. I work 70, 80 hours a week right now.
Well, and what you just said about all walks of life, it's so funny, because I feel like, well, not even funny, but just the whole experience has been for me so eye-opening to realize that just every single element of somebody else, of anybody's world right now, is significantly different in one manner or another. We are all experiencing that. And alike, we are dealing with the human condition. So all of these together gives us an opportunity to say, hey, I see you I see where you're at. And that's kind of where, I mean, I'm in a totally different industry, and we really haven't had the struggle in the real estate market as far as my primary profession goes. We haven't had that struggle.
Right.
We've had to take some different precautions and prepare ourselves a different way, but we really haven't lost business. So I feel for you in that way. At the same time, as a parent, I know you're a new parent. Delivering during COVID was different. There was all these different experiences. And I guess I say this to say where you have created space for people to come together is an opportunity to say like, hey, we might even be suffering together, but we're together.
Yeah.
Like it's so much better than doing it alone.
No doubt. You know, I would say that, and if I had to do it again, I'd do it all over, and I maybe would do it bigger. But with that came social shaming. I had people calling me out because we were doing things that they weren't comfortable with, but were certainly within the lines of the Arkansas Department of Health. The fire marshals have been in my restaurant. Vice is in my restaurant virtually every other weekend. I invited my closer friends with. See, one thing that you don't know is the people out here in the bushes taking pictures of people, of me or whatever I might be doing in the restaurant, and then calls the health department. When you call the Department of Health to complain about someone who's been in the restaurant business for 20 years, they know me. We have established relationships together. I had the health department called on me when my health inspector was sitting next to me in the building because someone felt like it didn't meet their description of what safe should be. And so in the beginning, when phase one, when the CDC rules were, if someone tests positive for COVID, you close the restaurant, you pay to have a company come in, or you do it yourself, sanitize the entire restaurant, 2 weeks, and then go back to it. In the phase we're in now, that's not the case. In fact, it's far less than that. So we had a prospective case that still hasn't necessarily turned out to be positive, but we closed on the end of June for 2 weeks when our business was just starting to take back up again. And then we opened up for 2 weeks, and then we had to close for another week because we just didn't have the staff to support it because we had to close the 2 weeks before that.
Right.
And so when I thought we were coming through coming back up the bell curve, that 3 weeks cost us, virtually $100,000 in revenue. And what it cost for me to hire and train and retain staff based on how the PPP guidelines are directed wasn't even close. It may have covered 60% of my wages. And so now we're operating at a net loss every week and still have the same payroll that we had prior.
Owning a small business right now is not a fun adventure, is basically the nutshell of that. I feel for you, and I'm very sorry because that just sounds really horrendous to have to deal with and a lot to kind of take on. But you've remained, open in spite of it. So your resilience as far as your friends goes, definitely shining through. So what made you, I know that, again, we can't control this. This is a situation. I can't do anything about it. You can't do anything about it. It's very difficult. Everyone has an opinion on everything, like you mentioned. It's very hard to come together when we're all busy kind of pointing fingers. And that's one of those things I wish everyone would kind of just hands down, hearts open, let's kind of move forward with a good attitude, because I think that's the only way. It's the only way it's going to.
I wholeheartedly agree with you on that.
Yeah. So that being said, what made you want to get into a lifestyle that, COVID or not COVID, you're an entrepreneur, like this was going to happen to you. You were going to hit a wall.
Yeah.
You were going to lose $100,000. Bad things were going to happen to you. And I only say that now, and I'm only a few years into owning a business. I can't imagine 20 years in.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to feel about it, because right now I'm not jaded, but I could easily get that way.
Sure.
And you seem like you're still in there wanting to keep going. So what made you do this? Why did you? Is it your personality type? Is it the way you were raised?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I don't know. I will say this. I was raised by my stepfather and my mother, and my stepfather is pure-blooded Italian. His parents came from Italy on the boat when they were children, and it was just a very stern, safe, over-controlled environment.
Structure.
And yes, and one of the things that he always told me was, you don't have to be the smartest guy in the room or the best athlete, but you can control how hard you work. Mm-hmm. And you can, and I really believe that that I could control how hard I'm willing to work. And so I was in my senior year of college, and backstory, I went to school at, like I said, Ole Miss for a couple of years, and then was in Fayetteville finishing up, and got together with some guys and created what is now Slim Chickens.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a great story to tell today. In 2002, 3.
It always looks good when it's at the end. The movie
Yeah.
was good when the credits came up.
I was making $7 an hour, $6.25 an hour, I think, frying chicken 40 hours a week, and bartending on Dixon Street on the weekends to pay my $500 a month rent.
All right, I don't mean to bring up Dixon Street, but when you just said that, it made me think, did you ever bartend at that bar that had the ice shot glasses?
I did not know. I was actually right off Dixon at Z330.
Okay.
where
I was going to say,
tending bar.
I've never really forgotten that experience.
Yeah,
That was
no,
one of
I
those
remember
things.
that.
Shots.
Yes, shots. Yes, that's right.
Just, anyway, continue.
Yeah. And it used to be, it's a little hole in the wall. Sorry, I can't go back there. Too many brain cells.
Too many restaurants ago.
Yeah, too many. That was 20-something restaurants
Yeah.
ago.
But anyway, so you're Slim Chickens. You're frying chicken 40 hours a week.
Yeah,
That sounds
yeah.
like a fun gig.
Yeah, I love cooking food. I really do. And I often, and we've referred to our staff many times, and that I'm not refinancing your home. My wife's a financial advisor, investor. I'm not managing your portfolio. You're not managing my real estate.
I mean, I could be.
You
Don't,
could.
anytime.
We
Just call me.
are. I'm in the market. We are literally, and it's relative from Slim's to the library too, in that we're in the hospitality industry. We owe them a smile. We owe
Right.
them an honest meal that's prepared fresh. It's brought to you. It's the way you want it. If it's not,
It
we'll
smells
make it right.
really good.
Thank you. and we have an exchange. That's our average ticket with drinks and guests and whatever is like $30. And so what kind of problem can really happen that I can't fix?
Right.
And so it's really about how we resolve conflict and deal with people.
Well, and one of the other things is you decided to get entrepreneur business, but what you provide is one of the first jobs almost
Yeah.
that a lot of people have. And it's one of those experiences people say, experts say, all the motivational speakers say, you should always work in the restaurant industry
Yeah.
when you first get started out because it makes you understand how to care for and provide service to people. And that
Absolutely.
is so true. Like,
One thing that I have often bragged about is that hiring has never been difficult. And we've opened restaurants, all over the country.
right.
And it's really not when there is a type of hiring culture that's behind that. And Chick-fil-A is obviously the A++ of hiring culture. They do it to a level that is unprecedented. However, culture's created. The environment that you have in work and where you are every day, it's not real. It's not, and it can be changed on a dime. But you've got to create a mentality and an attitude of people that are there, that want to be there, that are ready to serve others. And when that works, I have half of my staff now has been with me for many years in my other brands. And I am trying to create jobs and create opportunities for them. And I get to tell the story time and time again of the guy that I hired for $9, $10 an hour that's now making $60,000 a year. And that is how I live my life and my business. And so going through where we are now, I am trying to stay true to myself in that I'm just trying to create opportunities for others. I'm trying to create spaces and places for people to come and gather. And
Passing forward opportunity is not as easy in this atmosphere.
it's very, very, very difficult. But yeah.
Well, my encouragement to you, though, on this show, and we had kind of started to talk a little bit before the show, and a lot of people don't realize, we don't script the show. We don't send you questions in advance. I just meet with you and...
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, wouldn't it be? Here we go. But the thing is, I don't, I enjoy the organic experience
true.
of
Totally
getting
get
to
it.
know,
Yeah.
and getting to know somebody that I've never met before. I feel like, civil discourse is a really important part of our economy and of our world that we live in. And so I think it's important that I don't have any information about you, and we'll just figure it out when we meet. But I also want to hear your story and hear what brought you to add the value that you've added to the River Market, because that's the principle behind the Block Talk podcast. It's to add value to the time, to hear, the stories that other people are experiencing through their entrepreneurial journey and how they're supposed to hold on when times get tough. And I appreciate the advice to keep going. It seems like grit is one of those elements, no matter who I've had on the show or who I've asked that question to. Grit always seems to be this underlying thing that an entrepreneur has to have to push through. And I know that only because there are nights you just cry and you're just like, what was I thinking? Why did I do this? But all of that risk and all of that fear, it all just kind of it comes to fruition when you see it alive, and when you walk down the street and you smell the food and you see the windows open and people are smiling and laughing and you are providing opportunities for people and everyone's enjoying their space. So I know when it culminates that it's something beautiful, and that's why you keep going.
It's a blessing and a curse to a degree. I've never had a real job per se. I've never had a real job, and I'm 40 and I get up and put shorts and flip-flops on if I want to, and I dig what I do. Yes, it's very scary and it's painful, and it's even scary in good times. Mm-hmm. I can remember when we had some issues with chicken and avian flu and problems with distribution chains and lines, and that's compounding. So instead of having one library or having 20 restaurants, it's all relative to what you're in. And so for me personally, like, as scary as it is to do what I do, I'm fortunate that I don't know any different. Mm-hmm. But I'm also terrified, like the way that my brain is programmed. I can't subscribe to a salary. Like I can't subscribe to, this is your wage, this is your time to be here, this is your time to turn it off. That's just not the life that I live. And in the restaurant industry, it's a lifestyle. I mean, it's 7 days a week on call, dealing with problems and handling people. But you have to know that you can't always be in the weeds either. So you've got to hire and staff and train yourself out of every single situation.
You also have to know every position. A restaurant owner has to know front of house, back of house.
Yeah.
They have to know how to wait a table,
I'm
cook a
happiest
meal.
on the fry line. Like, I really am. I am happy.
Well, I mean, that's kind of unfair. You had a lot of experience frying chicken.
I do. But what I tell my staff is that, yes, I'm a dadgum good line cook, but it's a disservice to our guest for me to hide those talents back here in the kitchen, because I can also go out and talk to them.
Right.
And part of what we're doing in the experience and relationship industry is we have to talk to them. Mm-hmm. We've got to engage. We can't over-engage. It's a fine line. Mm-hmm. But you've got to make sure that when they leave, they know your name.
Yep.
They know that they had an opportunity to meet the guy that owns the place, to meet the guy that created the menu, to meet the guy behind the food and the story behind the brand. Ask the questions they want to know. Where is the Little Rock? Well, it's right over there. So it's all of that.
Yeah.
Where I would like to be, because when you're in the kitchen, you don't have to see the frowns on the faces, or you don't have to deal with any of the problems. You're just in your own world back there cooking food, and it's great.
Yeah. I'm having so many flashbacks to my TGI Friday days. I can't even tell you, but I just am proud of myself because I always wear flair. Do you guys wear flair? Do you wear flair? 27 pieces of flair?
I don't. I
Okay.
don't have any flair.
Do they have flair? Is there flair requirements?
There are no flair requirements.
There's going to be a flair. I'm about to go over there and
Maybe
bring
there
you
should
some
be.
flair. There needs to be some
It's
flair.
a good movie, though.
I think that, I think we should definitely implement the flair. You should have a themed night for that movie and everyone wear all the flair. Well, Rob, it's been such a pleasure to meet you and hear your story. And I know you've got a lot of challenges ahead. This is not over. We're all still pivoting. But, thank you for staying open anyways, and for being a part of the River Market anyways, and for taking part in these neighborhood meetings and neighborhood associations, and for voicing your opinion, and for going through what you're going through to create an opportunity for people to meet and have fun and eat and enjoy this entertainment district that we just got going before this pandemic hit. So we look forward to the other side of it. I'll sit 6 feet away and enjoy a meal at the library here soon. And I really, really appreciate coming on the show and adding the value that you have to our community.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here, and I appreciate you guys considering me a good person to have on the show.
Of course. We've enjoyed it. Thank you guys. Thanks, Little Rock, for tuning in. We'll see you on the next episode of The Block Talk. We're out.
Thanks.